want to do a roll call vote or just all in
roll
favor?
call vote or just say aye?
Did you have something to say?
No.
Oh, okay. I thought you were
Roll call.
approve.
Approve it, yeah.
Approved.
Roll call.
Roll call.
Commissioner Ranger?
Yes.
Commissioner French?
Yeah.
Commissioner Garrison?
Yes.
Commissioner Klein?
Yes.
Commissioner McNeil?
Yep.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, and now,
Is there any public comment? I didn't grab the list.
You'll need to look at the thing.
Nope.
Nope, nothing on it.
Okay.
none?
Nope,
Gary's
I didn't see Gary, so,
the number one.
Okay.
okay.
I move that CRW Board adopt resolution number 06-2019, appointing the Budget Committee citizen members for the biennium 2019 to 2021.
Second.
So if you have any other questions or if you're ready to vote.
So,
Call the question.
Yeah, go
Call the
ahead.
question.
Commissioner Ranger?
Yes.
Commissioner French?
Yes.
Commissioner Garrison?
Yes.
Commissioner Klein?
Yes.
Commissioner McNeil?
yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Welcome aboard, people.
Yeah, very good.
Yay. Welcome, yeah, we're there.
Yes.
We'll be seeing.
She said they have room for 3, and we got, and it does, yeah. So, thank you very
Thank
much
you very much.
for
If
coming.
you'd like to stay and watch the rest of the show, feel free.
We will, you'll have to.
No, you
Yeah,
don't.
I will be reaching out to all of you, we'll try to
Thank
do
you.
it so that you can kind of see some
I
stuff
think
around
that we did that with
the
Rock.
agency,
yeah.
I
so,
think, yeah, I think that.
Thank you.
thank you very
I think
much.
you owe me lunch.
Thanks.
Still on my number?
Yeah.
We'll see you.
503, 507, 7005.
Yeah, that's it.
Just call me, give me
I'll
a call
text you
sometime.
back. Yeah. Okay.
See you, Dave.
So Carol, that vote included the members that were already on?
Yes.
Yes, okay, thank you.
There and then
Okay. Agenda item number 2.
Yeah, sure. I move to award Highway 224 intertie construction contract to Trench Line Excavation Incorporated with a bid of $1,868,700 and authorize the general manager to sign the completed contract.
Second.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm here today with the results of our bid for the Highway 224 project. In the packet, we received 6 bids. The spread was quite even across the 6 bidders, and we're very excited to have Trench Line as the low bidder. We're currently working on water lines in Oregon City. As soon as they finish that, they would like to start this project at the end of this month. So we're preparing our paperwork in order to do just that. If you have any questions,
How do we do with getting our easement and stuff straightened out down at the bridge?
we have one in hand, it's closed. The second one, we've continued to negotiate with the property owner. They're sending the paperwork through legal, and we're negotiating on the final price. We made one offer which they have not responded to, and we'll be talking about that later tonight after the meeting to figure out who's legal, talks to who's legal.
Very good. So you don't see that being, you don't, no reason?
No, the real estate department is recommending it to their board.
Okay.
Which then has to go, they need to get authorization to get their legal to look at it.
Right.
And then respond.
So it's processed?
Correct.
Yeah.
So, on this diagram,
Mhm.
this red line is the intertie?
That's the extent of the project.
Right, okay, thank you.
Where does the 12-inch line fit in? Is that run parallel and for what purpose?
Which 12-inch line?
There's 150 lineal feet of 12-inch diameter class
Oh,
2 restrict.
There are 2 intersections.
Yes.
It's a bigger story, but that 150 feet of 12-inch crosses the street from the main line off ODOT right-of-way into the neighborhood.
Oh, okay.
And there we'll end that pipe for future extensions and connect.
Okay, thank you. pleased to see it under our estimate.
Need a vote on it.
Any other questions? Okay. Vote.
Commissioner Ranger?
Yes.
Commissioner French? Yes. Commissioner Garrison?
Yes.
Commissioner Kalani?
Yes.
Commissioner McNeil?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, then we go on to the next one.
Yeah, next one.
I move to award professional services contract to RH2 Engineering Incorporated for construction services associated with Highway 224 Intertype project for an amount not to exceed $209,869 and authorize the general manager's signature on the completed contract.
Second.
All right, this contract is a consultant services agreement with one of our on-call engineering consultants. The state of Oregon and their ODOT has determined that this work should be done at night. And we do not have staff available to, currently our inspector is working days on the Hatton Water Line project, and we'll continue to do that for several more months. This project will be done between 9 and 6 in the morning. So
The entire project?
that which restricts a lane on the highway.
Okay.
So there is a underground bore across 212 and some parking lot work that they can do during the day. They haven't told me whether or not they intend to do that work during the day, but there's an opportunity to do some of that work during daylight hours. So we selected one of our on-call contractors we asked them to provide a proposal, which they did. And the price was estimated to be about 10% of the construction cost, which is pretty normal for the industry. That we got a really low bid, so they're a little bit over 10%, but we're comfortable that the contract will get done ahead of time, and this is a time and materials contract not to exceed the $200,000, so any time savings that the contractor provides will also have a price savings in the amount of labor hours spent during the inspection.
And it was within 10% of our cost estimate.
Correct.
Right.
When we started negotiating with them and got the paperwork done, we were still working off of the 2.4 estimate. So we felt comfortable with the number at that time. Now we have a lower price. The contract was very energetic, wants to get it done, lickety split. And so I would anticipate some savings on this contract as well, because we won't be out there for the number of weeks that we had estimated.
And this is paid for by bonded dollars, right?
Correct.
Yes, not CIP dollars.
Correct.
Yep.
Any other questions?
Nope.
Very good. Vote.
Commissioner Ranger?
Yes.
Commissioner French?
Yes.
Commissioner Garrison?
Yes.
Commissioner Kalani?
Yes.
Commissioner McNeil?
Yep.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
The Patton Road project, I don't know how many people drive that, but I do regularly. I think they're doing a great job of patching and cleaning out, so. Yeah, I think it's amazing for the amount of water we've been getting lately, so.
The signals are off.
Yes, and the signals are on.
That's wonderful.
Helps. That's gotta help them get the trucks in and out of there.
Yeah.
Absolutely, everybody's excited. Yeah.
Consent agenda. Move to approve.
Second. Any questions?
Ready? Commissioner Ranger?
Yes.
Commissioner French? Yes. Commissioner Garrison?
Yes.
Commissioner Kalani?
Yes.
Commissioner McNeil?
Yep.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay. Agenda item 3,
One four.
Wait a
We're on
minute,
four.
wait a minute.
We just did the
Four.
consent agenda. Oh, this is consent
There it
agenda,
is.
yeah.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm here this evening to provide you with a quarterly update. This is through the second quarter of fiscal 2019. So 2019 is our second year of our biennial budget. So we would anticipate being about 75% of the way through the biennial budget. So our current revenue is at 84.1%. We are coming into the slower months, the February and the April bills tend to be lower than, because we do kind of peak in the summer. But we're currently about $2.2 million over the adjusted budget. So you'll remember that we did a supplemental budget where we needed to add some dollars for some more chemicals, some water purchase costs, and added to the personnel services for the engineering position. And so we increased our budget by $748,000 because we knew we had that much in the revenue. So that is included in the calculation here. So the retail water sales are at 84.8% of the biennial budget. So here I like to show this graph because remember we don't do things evenly. So we do have higher water sales in the summertime, and as I said, we're kind of down in this, I think I have a little, so what we're getting ready to build is like the February, and then we'll build the April. So as we're coming, these next columns will be lower. We're in the lower use time of the year. But we're still gonna easily meet our enhanced forecast for water sales. So then if we turn to look at the general fund expenses, personnel services is at 71.4%. Again, at this point in the cycle, we would think we would be about 75%. So we're close, we're in range. Materials and services is kind of.
But we don't have an engineer on board.
We don't have an engineer
Yeah.
on board. The materials and services is at 66.8%, and our capital outlay is kind of low at 36.4%, but if we include the encumbrances, so any orders that we have in progress, we're at 45.8%. And again, when I look at the capital outlay, these are dollars that get spent in bigger chunks. So if we order something and get it purchased, then that number could bump up pretty quickly. I don't have any concerns about exceeding that budget appropriation category. So things to watch. Personnel services, everything seems to be in alignment. We are in the process of hiring an engineer based on that supplemental budget. Materials and services, we can see that in customer services, we're tracking a little high. One of the things that's included in there, like the bill printing and postage and stuff, and of course now postage has gone up. But it's tracking a little bit high, but the excess is only $7,000. So, when we're talking about our big capital dollars, where we're talking millions, a percentage high on that could be something to watch more closely. This is not very much. And so other things that are higher than 75%, through my analysis, they're things that are seasonal or we've already paid for the total cost for the year. So capital outlay, again, we're under, but when we throw in the encumbrances, we're approaching 50%. So let's take a look at the other funds. System development charges, revenue. The biennial budget was $570,000, and we've already collected $657,000. So we're doing much better on system development charges, new services, than we anticipated when we put the budget together about 2 years ago. We also have a new service. In fact, we've just got a wire transfer in today for a 3-inch service, so that's going to get us up even higher. We like that. That also raises some of the costs on the other side, like in materials and services for the meter installation costs, but everything is still staying in alignment. Some of what we're seeing in the SDC revenues is the Abernathy Landing, so we're starting to get system development charges paid in for those properties. I believe it's plotted for 97 homes, and we've had at least 30 that have come in already. But that's the one where part of the cost of the water line, we had the contractor do a bigger water line than he needed for his development, so there's some SDC credits. We still book the whole revenue, and then we're offsetting it by the liability accounts that we set up. What we're seeing now is that our SDC reserves are, I anticipate them to be greater than 2 million by the end of the year. So as we're discussing budget for next year, I'm recommending that we use some of those SDC reserves for CIP projects as we move into the biennium. That won't use any of the anticipated SDCs that come in. So anything that comes in is going to stay in the ending fund balance, but anything that's in the ending fund balance now, I feel comfortable spending that on capital improvement projects.
Aren't we gonna have an overage in CIP projects anyway? We're underspent?
Yeah, we are underspent at this point because we moved some stuff, so we'll see where we end up. That money typically stays in the capital reserve fund. We don't move it to CIP until we need it. So we'll be moving less to CIP, but we will have this SDC revenue available, or SDC reserve available to spend on SDC appropriate projects in the upcoming biennium. So if we're looking at the capital improvement projects fund, we've been focusing a lot more on the backbone, and so the CIP fund so far for this fiscal year is really low. I think we've got a project that, one or two projects that have recently been bid, so we will start seeing some more activity there. And then the CIP bond construction fund, we're at 53% of the budget. And if you look at, and that's for the biennium. So if we look, we've spent so far through December, 4.8 million, and we've had some large bills come through in January, and we will have another one in February. So we're, that's ticking along as we would expect it to. So that's what I've got for the quarterly update. I'd be happy to answer any questions that anybody has.
Anybody? Questions?
Looks good.
No, very good, thank you.
Yeah.
Making an LGPI fund, Carol.
Excuse me?
So what kind of interest are we making in the LG?
It's about 2.75 now.
Is it?
Yeah,
What
so it has
is it
gone up
rate
in the
increases?
last, over the last year, which is another reason that our revenues are higher. We forecast the dollar amounts that we had in the LGIP based on, it was, I think, less than 1% when we did the budget. And so now we're at over 2%, maybe it's only 2.5, but we're over 2% now. So we have exceeded biennial budget for revenue on interest earnings.
Ready for the management report?
Yes.
All right, so in your folder, just a couple things I want to point out. You have your monthly update for February. Couple items of note in that report is if you go to page 9, just recognizing that we have our water produced and purchased report set up as a calendar year, so now we're starting that new January period, so, but you have all that historical data there. And then moving on to page 11, where we talk about kind of some of the winter conditions reports and so on. Just want to note that those graphics are for January 28th, and so hopefully some of this more recent weather is going to help improve that, although we still have progress to be made. Then you all get sent a copy of the magazine that's put out by Portland State University as far as their population studies group. And then we also have a copy of the most recent CRW building insert that will be going out as well. So those are some things I just want you to be aware of. As it relates to what's included in your written reports, just wanted to highlight a few things real quick. One, at the Regional Water Providers Consortium board meeting and also a technical committee, they had a chance to kind of review some of the information as it relates to a customer survey that was conducted for the Tri-County area and so on. I think Commissioner Andrew had a chance to
Yes.
attend the board meeting and hear some of those results. A couple of key findings I thought were interesting. One of the things we encouraged the Regional Water Providers Consortium to do is to kind of broaden out beyond conservation messaging and to kind of work also on emergency preparedness. And that ends up, at least from the survey, to be a good plan, given the fact that if you look at the interest of the public and so on, they identified one of the greatest concerns was about preparing for emergencies and natural disasters. And that even ranked higher than concerns about safety of the water or availability of water. So I thought that was a telling result. One thing that was specific to Clackamas County is that we have a tendency we're more likely to water our lawns than residents in Washington and Multnomah counties by a pretty significant percentage. This was a survey that had a statistical significance of plus or minus 4.9%, and so.
Our lawns are bigger,
Yeah, no, I mean, it
flat out.
wasn't a big surprise.
They
but-
build on all of the property in Washington, Multnomah County.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what
Sure.
we pointed that out at the
Yeah.
meeting.
Yeah, that's the.
Yeah, so it was just kind of one of those things where the research firm thought maybe that might be an opportunity for some targeted messaging in Clackamas County and so on, which is a good information for the Clackamas for the water providers that we'll mention here in a little bit. And then one of the primary reasons why or a significant reason for why they wanted to do this survey was to find out how effective is a lot of their messaging. They do a lot of ads on TV, a lot of ads on the radio, bus ads, all sorts of different types of public service announcements and so on. And it did come back with a recall rate of about 30% for the public service announcements, which the research firm said a good rule of thumb is if you're over 20%, that's good. And so the fact that they're at 30 was encouraging. And then it was an interesting topic to me where people were very concerned about emergency preparedness and stuff, but when you look at what people were actually doing, we haven't moved the needle. People still are not preparing by storing water and so on, and so that's an area that the research firm also identified, hey, seems like an opportunity to hit that a little bit harder, so.
What kinds of things can we do to move the needle? I mean, can we give simple steps that people can take to store water, for example?
Yeah, so you'll notice in the recent, we took this to heart, so in the recent newsletter, we republished some information about the importance of having a supply of emergency water. We also are looking at ways to kind of incorporate additional information in the future, ways we contact with. One of the things I've been talking as part of the resiliency forums that have been going on is the importance of making sure people are preparing themselves. And that allows us to move forward with repairs to the system and how valuable it is if people are prepared.
It's easy to do, just shut the water off for a day.
Yeah. All right.
One day, shut it all off. Shut it off, okay, figure it out.
Can I give you your phone number?
Yeah, please do. I'm glad to talk about the 7 Ps.
Yeah. Anyway, so
I'm ready. Bring it
there are a lot
on.
of things.
But
And-
what you're saying when you say we haven't moved the needle, that people are, as a group, not any more prepared than they were the last time we talked to them about it.
So what I'm basing that on is one of the questions dealt with, the question about what action have you taken in order to establish or create an emergency water supply for yourself? And a poll that was conducted back in 2015 showed there was about 30% of the people said yes,
That they had
supplied.
done something.
Unfortunately, the results in this latest thing, end of 2018, was also 30%.
It's still at 30%.
Right. So, I think we keep pointing out the importance of, you don't want to be the person that's running to Safeway or whatever store to clean out the shelves when there's an emergency. You want to be the one that has, that's not an issue.
If it's only 30%, they will be. I mean, they'll
Oh, yeah.
look just like Salem did or worse.
Yeah. So it's an opportunity for us to continue to hammer that message home. So.
Would, along those lines, would it help if we did some public information work by going door to door and talking to people, not everybody, but a small group and see if we can.
So one of the things I've talked to Don about is, you know, kind of reaching out to more of the community groups and so on.
Yeah,
that would be
And, but then, and we're not the only one with this message, and so there's partnering opportunities as well to encourage, you know, to piggyback off other things, and then, you know, this is done by the Regional Water Providers Consortium, so there's a regional opportunity as well, so.
One-
so I think
one
there's
last-
multiple things.
Okay, one last question on that line. Do we have access to any kind of information about what other water providers have done successfully to encourage people to be more prepared?
A lot of our coordination has been through the Regional Water Providers Consortium, and so there's
And how
Don
wide-
Bunyard, and so frankly, it's more of a group effort than it has been an individual.
Oh,
effort.
okay, so
So,
you're saying we're there, at least regionally.
we're working as a region together. My point is maybe we need to rethink what our message is or our approach or something so that we can try to move that needle more.
Good point.
So,
Okay, thank you.
So one of the things that's changing a lot is the message from Oregon Office of Emergency Management, actually, here's Matt Hall. They use a horrible target of 72 hours of resources. And we clearly understand that you need at least 30 days worth of resources to keep yourself alive and running. And so that's the new message going out to people is this 72 hours doesn't cut it. We did a thing, you try to live on 5 gallons of water for 70 hours for everything you do. And we're talking flushing the toilet, taking the shower, cooking the food, everything. Then you're making some really tough choices to make that 5 gallons last. It doesn't work. And so the amount of water you need is a lot. It's the hardest, it's the #1 hardest thing to have available because there's so many things that people use water for that they take it for granted.
Yeah.
They do not even realize all the things they use water for. And so that's, OEM is gonna try to crank that up, and I think that's a good thing. So it should make our messaging better, so.
So, yeah, the good news is there's starting to be a lot more energy around this, so I'm hoping we have better results in the future. Moving on to the Clackamas River Water Providers, I think that the thing that I just wanted to highlight as part of the written report is I think this summer, we're seeing an effort to try to be more proactive with some of our water conservation messaging. This is something that the CRW board a couple, 2 or 3 years ago kind of pointed out the importance of doing that. It's nice where everybody is now kind of seeing the light on that and the importance of that. Of course, they have some new permit conditions that are helping to encourage that as well. And so we'll be coming back to you with kind of some updates on what's taking place, but we have been having some meetings over the winter to help start preparing for that and so on.
At what point do we have mandatory conservation? At what percentage would we be going past just advising people?
So on our water management and conservation plan, we have trigger levels, we have 4 trigger levels.
Mhm.
And so as part of that, the first trigger levels is, and these are based on river flow issues.
Okay.
And so, frankly, during the summer, we'll approach those trigger levels, but we haven't hit them.
Okay.
But we do want to be more proactive with our conservation messaging. I think really what we're looking at doing is kind of encouraging different levels of conservation. We don't have anything that says you will cut off people at this point. I mean, this is all something that would go back to the board and, declare an emergency and some of that sort of stuff.
It's up to the county.
For a drought declaration to request that,
Up to the county.
we have some mechanisms as well. So I think the good news in this is we're having that conversation now, which is good. And I think, frankly, CRW is in a good position with our certificated water rights and how our conditions work. The other, I think it's a changing environment right now. I think this is a good progress discussion, so.
So do any of these organizations have any responsibility to be talking to Metro and these different planning organizations that keep increasing densities and keep adding more urban growth
Yeah, it's
and
true.
not expanding the water supply or power or anything
Yeah.
else, and it's crazy. Because you're gonna cross that line, you're gonna cross that line if we keep going the way we're going without a plan. Conservation will get you a little bit, but not all of it.
No, and it's, and it's why you see a lot of, there's still development of water supply options and stuff, that a lot of different projects around this region. One of the challenges for a water provider is, I always call it a duty to serve, where what we have an opportunity to do is, you know, our boundaries are drawn and we have a duty to serve within those boundaries. The challenge is, we don't have any mechanism that says you're done. Our only mechanism to say that you're done is to declare a moratorium. The problem is the state statute, that's only a temporary solution. You have to have a plan on what you're going to do.
You gotta fix it.
Yeah.
You gotta fix it.
And frankly, that's what you saw in like the city of Wilsonville, back in the early 2000s, or late 90s actually, where they declared a moratorium. But the problem was, and that stopped building and everything, but the state said, well, you need to do something. You can't not do something, so that's when they had developed their land and water rights and so on. So yeah, so that's kind of a position that, as a water provider we're in, is we're not the land use agency, we kind of have that duty to serve.
But there needs to be a checkoff box for that going forward, because it's irresponsible to think that you can, I mean, the Friends of Fish lawsuit, Jesus, you know, they've blown that thing off. We need to figure out what the river can support,
Yeah,
both for fish and for humans and for agriculture and everything else. And you can't be responsible as a board member if you don't have the information. I mean, they can't hang us for that if we don't know. Somebody needs to, the state needs to deal with that, you know, and it's frustrating that they keep kind of not taking care of business, you know, so.
3 years ago, when we had that water shortage, we were discussing limiting the water use, you know, for agriculture and for homegrown grass and whatnot. And we got rain just a week after we had that discussion, so it was kind of dropped. But had that continued, we would have been rationing water.
Yeah, I think we have, you know, the Clackamas is a fairly resilient river as it relates to, there's not a lot of fish activity in the summer. I mean, traditionally, that's the way the Clackamas runs. And frankly, that's reflected in Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife's comments on the permit extension and so on. Keep in mind, we have our water management and conservation plan. That is a plan that we submit to Oregon Water Resource Department, but it receives comments from Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife. And that helps stipulate what sort of conditions we have in that document as well. So presumably it's something that has been reviewed by the fish agencies and we have a chance to move forward on. So we are coordinating. I think the good news in this, I actually look at this as a real good thing, because now it's, you know, I think what you experienced a few years ago before I was here was the kind of that tension between, hey, let's get on the same page. And what we're seeing here is now everybody's kind of nodding their head in the same direction. Now, what that really looks like, I don't know yet, but at least we're having that discussion and moving forward before next summer.
So have any of these groups talked about the report that came out of Oregon State about the way the climate has changed in the Cascades? I don't know whether you guys read that or not, but that thing's scary. Because if that happens, God.
Well, and I think, I don't know who's read the report and so on, and in fairness, I have not myself, although I'm aware of it, but I think what this last year demonstrated is we were talking about the possibility of hitting trigger flows in November. We're talking about low flows in November.
Yeah, rivers in the toilet.
That's
Scary.
a wild discussion.
Yeah.
Now, that does get the attention of the fish agencies, because it's really important to have that late fall, early winter kind of flush.
Steelhead hitting the river.
Well, the state in general, looking at there are areas that are 30% below what the normal is. And it's not just gonna be there, it gets spread throughout the whole state. And what happens then? What do you do?
I mean, look at Crook County. Between Facebook and Apple, they suck 6 billion gallons of water a year out of the aquifer. The reservoirs are empty over there right now, and this is the year the farmers and the high-tech folks are gonna go head to head. It'll be interesting, because their aquifers are dropping in those wells, and they have, do we grow alfalfa or not?
Yeah.
So stay tuned, but I actually look at this as a good progress discussion, so.
There's gotta be a catalyst that starts the conversation.
Yep. So, next item, just North Clackamas County Water Commission, I just wanted to let you know, I did attend their last meeting, and the good news there is under their new reorganized, intergovernmental agreement, one of the things they're supposed to do is be a little bit more progressive as far as their water supply planning and what those needs are gonna be. So they're starting that process to work with the different, member agencies to do that. The reason why that's important to us is because, I envision us as being a partner in figuring out, they're not gonna have enough water. And so at some point, there's gonna have to be a discussion of how does that fit. And so, that'll be something that I wanna continue to track, and we'll bring information to you as it progresses. Also completed the first water resiliency forum. This is the forums that are being put on in conjunction with Water Environment Services that's been organizing and had the Clackamas County participate. So we have another forum that's coming up February 26th. Just as far as the staffing update, we have 3 positions that we're opening, or that we're recruiting for right at the moment. And then we also, just looking ahead, our office will be closed on the 19th, for President's Day. And then also a reminder that our next work session is on the 25th. And during that work session, we'll review the progress on the 2018 goals that you established for the general manager. We'll also talk multiple times about the backbone update, and we'll also, we did receive the comments back from the Oregon Health Authority on the water system master plan, so we'll review those with you so that we can make sure that we can then proceed with the next steps. Let's see, the only other thing not on the agenda is, or not on the report, is on March 6th, the North Clackamas Chamber of Commerce is hosting the annual State of the Cities Forum Luncheon. If you're interested in attending, please let Karen know, and she'll get you signed up. And that concludes my report tonight.
So have you guys looked at the new website? I'd like to thank Suzanne for that.
Oh, good. I
She's-
appreciate that.
That is significantly better than what we had, and I think it can continue to grow. So please pass that on to her for us.
Any other questions? Nothing new? Okay.
So that we
All you guys remember that Thursday is February 14th? Don't forget for you.
Well, that's the reason our meeting is tonight instead of Thursday.
Valentine's Day.
That's the reason.
Son of a gun.
That's the reason.
I remember.
And you want the number of Florist real quick?